Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I'm Andrew Sumner, and this is the one and only Peter Hogan. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you again.
Always great to see you, brother. Always great to see you. As we've covered off on this show in the past, you know I go way, way back, but we're here to talk about your current triumph, your Resident Alien series, co-created with the great Steve Parkhouse. Peter, you're here to talk about the new series of Resident Alien: The Book of Love. What can you tell me about it, mate?
Right. This is our seventh volume or seventh mini series, if you prefer. And it's kind of with the last one, with book six, we kind of tied up, or at any rate progressed some of the sort of major back what would you call them, subplots, things that have been hanging in the air for a while. We kind of sort of finally dealt with, but there was one big one that we hadn't got around to dealing with yet, which we kind of sort of hinted at in the last few pages of book six, and that's the relationship between Harry and Asta, which has been in a kind of will they won't they state for some years. They've been friends, they've been doctor and nurse, and the big question was, was anything else going to happen between them? So we finally got around to dealing with that. But in this miniseries, it's not just their relationship we're looking at. There's several other sort of romantic relationships in the town of Patience that we'll also be examining, and some sort of some kind of subplots which are crime related rather than murder related. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I hope people will enjoy it.
Yeah, mate, I'm sure they will. And when you look back on these, say, let's go prior to the Book of Love. When you look back on the first six seasons, however you want to call them, of Resident Alien, what's that ride been like for you and Steve?
It's been interesting because I was thinking, somebody asked me about this the other day, and we kind of started off with some appearances in Dark Horse Presents. So, and that was, effectively one issue of the comic. And we didn't know when we started whether we were going to get any more than that. It was clear that we had the support of Mike Richardson, Dark Horse's publisher, who always felt that we would, get a chance to have, see this in another format as a movie or a TV series. But actually turning it into a TV series took 10 years. So as a result of that, Mike was sort of, the years would go by and Mike would go, yeah, okay, do another one. And that's how we racked up 6 books. So it grew very slowly and very organically. And with each mini series that we did, we tried to expand the supporting cast and develop their stories as well as Harry's. And also the stories got more complex. I mean, at the beginning, it was, he's an alien who's a doctor who also solves crime. And as we went on, it sort of grew to be kind of more than that. And then that kind of became a game in itself. It was sort of like, what can we do next? Let's send him to New York. What can we do next? Let's have this thing happen. And then, in the stage that we're at now, it kind of became a thing of not just what can we do next, but we've kind of gone up a gear, and so that now we're going to places I never thought we would go. And also the TV show's kind of become a part of that, because we're the show is very different from the comic, and that's fine. But now it's become a kind of thing of, well, they're doing that, so I can do this other thing. So that's been entertaining. And like I say, we're going to go over books 7, 8, and 9. We're going to go some very unusual places, which, like I say, I never thought we'd go to. So I'm sure the readers didn't either. So I'm not actually sure whether they'll like it or not, but we'll see.
I can't wait to see that, mate. Something that I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on is if somebody was watching this conversation who was a big fan of the TV show, had never picked up the comic book, but was spurred to do so by watching you.
Yeah.
What do you think are the key differences between the TV rendering of Resident Alien and what you created in the comics with Steve?
Yeah. Well, I think the major difference. Well, Chris Sheridan has gone to a lot of different territory to what we're doing. He's very much kind of up to the idea of lots of different ideas of, you know, aliens and the whole kind of UFO subculture and all of that, which we really don't. Harry's always been on his own. But also because they've got Alan, and Alan's a great comic actor, you know, their version of Harry is a kind of sort of wild and wacky guy, whereas, you know, our Harry is a nice bloke, you know, and probably the most intelligent man in town, but, you know, he's a lot more kind of sedate than the TV version. So a lot of the sort of weirdness factor and the outright comedy stuff is kind of the trademark of the TV thing, whereas we're a bit more quiet.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about it the other day because somebody sort of, you know, asked me, and I was saying, yeah, it's kind of like a soap opera, but hopefully an intelligent soap opera. I mean, in the way that Love and Rockets is.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good analogy. Do you think it's I mean, and maybe these things rate equally, but do you think that it's better to be involved in a creative endeavor that's adapted into another medium and the other medium does it very faithfully, or do you think it's better to have the two things be quite distinct and separate? Where do you sit on that continuum?
Well, it's a bit kind of like, you know, the road you didn't go. So I don't really know. I mean, if they'd done a really faithful one and it was dull, that would be awful. So the fact that they've done something good means that however different it is, I'm fine with it. You know, and like you say, the show has brought in new readers, and what seems to be the case, as far as I can make out, is that people like both.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that for me is, you know, is the best thing that I could have asked for.
Yeah, and that's clearly been my experience as a reader. I think people have affection for the TV show.
Yeah.
You know, and as you say, it's got a wonderful lead. Alan's a great actor,
Yeah.
but it's very well created and nicely mounted and everything. But I think it leads them to the comic book if indeed it works this way, and people have a different and just as enjoyable experience, and that's a kind of glorious circle, really, mate.
It is. I mean, one of the things that I hear from a lot of my friends is that it's just about the only show that they can sit down with the whole family and watch, and their teenage kids like it as well as they do. So, you know, so
Yeah.
that's kind of unique as well. I never expected any of that.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. How long have you known Steve Parkhouse for now, mate?
I've known Steve. Well, the thing is, this sort of began when I was. I always liked Bo Jeffrey's saga, so I was like a fan of Steve's going back to that. But then when I was editing Revolver, so that would be 89, and I managed to hire Steve to do stuff for that. And then when I started work for Vertigo, when Vertigo hired me to write, you know, Sandman spin-off stories, the very first one, they said, who do you want to do? And I said Steve, and we did like 5 issues of The Dreaming together. So, and then we've sort of, you know, we tried to get various other things off the ground during the years that, you know, signally failed to get off the ground. And then finally I said to Steve, okay, well, like, you know, let's go in as a team and try and get a deal for something. What do you want to do? And he really wanted to do something involving aliens, and the rest is what I came up with, pretty much. So.
How does your working relationship with Steve break down?
It breaks down. Well, we have to get the AI out once in a while. Yeah, no, well, you know, he's up the other end of the country, so it's basically you know, my scripts are like long letters
Yeah.
to him. And then we do a certain amount of emailing and talking on the phone and all the rest of it. Meeting in the flesh, we don't actually get to do that often. We met up last summer, and I think that was the first time for 3 or 4 years that I'd seen him in the flesh.
I mean,
But it works well. We kind of trust each other.
yeah. Yeah.
You know,
No,
and that's you know, what you need for a team. And you know, I trust him to get on with it, and he trusts me to do the same. So
I can see that. Of the many different titles that you've been involved with during your comics career, is there anything that you would like to go back to and revisit?
oh well, you're back to that thing of, you know, if only. So it would have been nice to have done more stuff for Marvel or more stuff for DC. And you know, I'm sure I've got more Sandman stories in me, but you know, they're not asking for them, so they're not going to get them. The one that I really regret, and that's entirely down to the publisher cocking things up, is I would have liked to have done a couple more Tom Strong stories.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, right on.
you know, at the time they didn't want to go for it, and then they started you know, messing with Alan so badly that the whole thing just became, you know, impossible. So
Yeah.
but it's a shame.
Yeah, I know that's a pity that you won't get to play around with Tom Strong anymore, because your Tom Strong series are always delightful, always highly entertaining.
Well, it's a great character, you know, and you know, I'm really pleased that Alan gave me that chance to, you know, go and play in his sandbox for a while.
What's the status of Time House?
Of Time House.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit of a weird one, that, because I mean, all the stuff I did for, well, not all, but yeah, a lot of the stuff I did for 2000 AD, they subsequent editors didn't feel that, you know, I was kind of standard 2018 material, which is completely true, but I was doing something different. And I always thought that the different bits of 2000 AD were what made it interesting. You know, I mean, I liked Big Dave, but I know I'm in a minority. Time House, it was the first series that I did. So it was a bit clunky because I was still sort of learning my craft, but I'm still fond of what I did there. Somebody approached me at one point to say that they'd like to turn it into an opera, which shows you what kind of insane friends I have. I mean, they own it, you know.
Yeah.
The chances of them wanting me to do any more, I would think, are probably quite slim. The other sad thing is that Tim Bollard gave up doing comics and kind of turned his back on that whole world. So I mean, I haven't spoken to him in 30 years nearly.
Oh, I hadn't appreciated that.
Yeah.
I remember, and I think this is right. Didn't he draw a beautiful image in his style of Batman and Robin that you had up in your place once years ago? It's he either did that, or you used to display it, or you gave it to me.
No.
It's a long time ago.
No, I never had a Batman and Robin. I had a page of Time House, and
Yeah.
well, in fact, I had 2 pages because he did a kind of pin-up. But no, Tim did a few other things. He took over Tao Demoto for one series, and he did odd short stories and whatever. But I don't think he ever kind of really got the break in comics that he deserved. And he ended up becoming a nurse.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Which is, you know, quite a shift in things. And I guess his life just kind of ran off in a different direction.
An admirable thing to do, nonetheless.
Yeah.
And you know, sitting from the vantage point that you are at the moment, where things are going very well for Resident Alien. So the Book of Love drops in issue 1 drops in November.
Yes.
And then have you got more series coming, Peter?
Yeah. Well, the plan is that I've just finished writing the scripts for book 8, and which is called The Book of Life. And that'll be along in about a year, I guess, maybe longer. And the plan is to do book 9, and we're kind of undecided whether or not that will be the end of it, or whether we might go for a bit longer. But I think Steve's getting older and he wants to slow down a bit, so we might call it a day on that.
Aren't we all, mate? Aren't we all?
Yeah.
And is there anything you're reading at the moment you'd recommend?
That I'm reading?
Yeah.
Comics wise, probably not. I actually don't read that many new comics yet, but I've probably got a pile of interesting things to pick up. I did tell you what I did like was the Catwoman Lonely City, which is really good, and
that's a great choice. That is very good.
I'm looking forward to sort of picking up Miracle Man and seeing where that's going after all these years. Other than that, I tend to be reading mainly novels for fiction.
Yeah. So have you anything stand out recently, mate?
Yeah, I enjoyed the last Richard Osman. I mean, it's one of those things that you read with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
And I'm just about halfway through Alan Moore's short story collection.
Now, this is what I suspected we might end up at this point. So, are you enjoying it so far?
I am. Yeah. I mean, it's weird because.
And you've worked a lot with Alan Moore over the years. For those watching this who don't know, You, as you say, you scripted Tom Strong for a long period of time at Wildstorm, but you've known Alan for a long time, haven't you, mate?
I've known Alan for a long time, which, I mean, we got to know each other when I was a journalist and I was interviewing him. And then when I got into comics, I'd send him copies of things that I was proud of. And that's what ended up with him hiring me to do work for his ABC line.
Yeah.
And then we co-plotted 2 series of Terra Obscura, which was the old 1940s superheroes that he'd used in Tom Strong. And we literally sat in Alan's living room co-plotting that, and then I'd go away and write the scripts. So, but as a result of that, I did gain some insights into some of Alan's working methods, and there's he likes to experiment. I mean, I mean, a lot of the sort of short stories that he did with the ABC stuff were like sort of, oh, what if I did it backwards? What if I did it upside down or inside out or whatever? And he, and he'd do like sort of 6-page stories that were just kind of like experiments. And I remember somebody, an editor in another company saying to me, that they got the impression that he put as much work into that as he did into, the Promethea or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And I said, yes, it's true. I mean, he doesn't have 2 speeds. It's full on sort of laser intensity, whatever he's doing. And it's interesting because some of the short stories are obviously that kind of experimental stuff. I mean, what happened in the first 5 minutes of creation? Go, and turn it into a 20-page story, and that's great. But it's the things that have a bit more heart, a bit more depth, the things that I really like. I mean, it's one thing being clever, but being sort of, bringing in the whole orchestra and just going for it is more satisfying for me as a reader, anyway.
Yeah, I think it's being those things and being compelling and interesting at the same time is often a very difficult creative trick to pull off, right? But of course, he does it effortlessly. I
don't know that it's effortless. It just looks effortless.
Yeah. Right on. I think that's very well said. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he works hard. Yeah.
And I realise you probably can't talk about this, Peter, but do you have some things on your dance card outside of Resident Alien that you're working on?
Well, you're right. I can't really talk about it. I mean, when I've got something to say, I'll say it. But there's nothing else in the comics line at this point. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, right this moment, the only comics company I'm actually talking to is Dark Horse. So whether they'd want me to do anything after Resident Alien's all sewn up, I don't really know. we'll find out, I guess, when we get there.
But I mean, the reality is, Book of Love is about to drop. You've still got 2 more glorious series of Book of Love and the Difference. Who knows where we're all going to be in 2 years' time, and what's going to happen? You know, particularly in this world in which we live. So, Peter, it's great to see you, mate.
Thank you.
All the very best of luck, which you don't need for Resident Alien: The Book of Love, which first issue lands in November. Everybody watching this conversation can order the issue from the links attached to this video. And it is always lovely to see you, my friend.
Yeah. Should we tell these people I'm going to be at Forbidden Planet signing copies of the thing?
Oh, let's get it done. Yeah. Do you know what the date is? Do you know when you're going to be there?
It'll be that Saturday, which I think is the 18th or the 19th.
Yeah, of November.
Yeah,
right on. And the links to Peter's signing will be in the video as well. Yeah, cool. So come and get your copy of Resident Alien: The Book of Love, issue 1, signed by the man himself. And as you can see, there's nobody more affable and charming than Peter Hogan. So why not get some of that affability and charming experience in the flesh?
And why not?
And why not, indeed. I'll look forward to seeing you there at the store, mate, in November.
Okay, mate. It'll be lovely. Good.
Take care, mate. All the very best.
Thank you.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.